What's up, guys? I am back with some exciting new updates to the Mobile Suit Gundam tabletop role-playing game that we've been working on. Today we're talking about equipment, including mobile suits and weapons. Let's hop right in. Okay, we have the equipment page open. Let's take a look. I had always intended on using the armor mechanic from D&D 5e to represent mobile suits to sort of treat them as an equipable item to your pilot character. That said, it would be way too difficult to try and list out the stats for every single mobile suit in the entire Gundam universe. So I've narrowed it down to three types of mobile suit, each with three advancement tiers, for a total of nine types, each with their own evasion bonus, which is our armor class, chances to hit. Each has their own armor points, which is the hit points of the mobile suit. It didn't make sense to have the pilot hit points reflect the entire mobile suit's hit points, so each one comes equipped with its own static number. They all have their own cost. Gila is, in my research, I found that that was the only currency that was mentioned in the Universal Century. I don't know exactly what that equates to in dollars or gold, but we're going to work with that. Um, then they each have their own ability score requirement. This is to prevent players from sort of hopping around between different mobile suits. Finally, I didn't want to have to use a mechanic like this. I wanted to keep everything as simple as possible. Unfortunately, I couldn't come up with a way using the mechanics within D&D 5e to prevent players from taking a base level mobile suit and equipping it with overpowered weaponry like hyper mega particle cannons and things like that. So what we do is we have the generator capacity, which each tier of mobile suit has its own specific generator capacity, and each weapon, item, or upgrade has a generator cost. And this limits the number of upgrades that you can put on a single mobile suit, which makes it more tactical for the player. You know, you kind of have to pick and choose which upgrades you're going to use, but it also kind of deters against that sort of power gamer munchkin style of play, and it helps balance the game a lot more. So going through the different mobile suit types, you have your basic mobile suits, which are your mass production style entry level mobile suits, your GMs, your Zaku's, and then within that you have the three types of mobile suit. The balanced mobile suit is the kind of base level stats, not focused on offense or defense, but it's ideal for either infantry or the true new type specialities. Some basic examples of that are your GM or your Zaku 2. The aggro mobile suits are high risk, high reward because they focus more on speed and stealth than armor. Some examples of that would be your GM Sniper or the Agai. These are ideal for the infiltrator class. And finally, we have the Saikomu mobile suits. They're a little slower moving and have more armor points, and they're really designed for that cyber new type that's going to be controlling the field using ranged attacks and funnels and bits and that sort of thing. The advanced tier mobile suits are often either mass production line mobile suits that have been customized for a specific pilot, or they are the mass production version of a prototype mobile suit. Some notable examples for the balance type mobile suit would be like the Ground Gundam or Norris Packard's Goof Custom. Some examples of sort of the aggro mobile suits would be like the Rizel, which is kind of a downgraded version of the Zeta Gundam, or the Zgok Commander type, the Char Custom Zgok, that's a little bit faster and a little bit stronger than the traditional Zgok, but probably has a little bit less armor on account of that. And then finally, in the Saikomu category, we have things like the Yacht Doga, because that wasn't a unique mobile suit. It was something that was produced both for Gune and for Quest. You know, it's kind of a mass produced version of a true new type mobile suit. And finally, we have the advanced tier mobile suits. These are the Gundams. These are the unique models made for Xeon officers. These are units that are not accessible by your average pilot. These are for high level characters, and so they're the most difficult to attain. Some examples of the balanced mobile suits in the elite tier would be the RX-78-2 Gundam or the Sinanju. In the aggro category, you're looking at things like the Zeta Gundam or the Bawu. And then finally, in the Saikomu category, you have things like the New Gundam or the Kubile. Now, I know it seems strange to categorize mobile suits like this, but I did it in order to make the game more flexible for people that wanted to use their own sort of custom mobile suits or mobile suits that I hadn't considered using. By doing this, you can work with your GM and figure out what category and what tier a particular mobile suit is, and you can use your best judgment. Honestly, it's not hard to pick out where a mobile suit would fit. You might have some debate about whether a mobile suit is designed to be a balanced mobile suit or an aggro mobile suit, but I think deep down you know which ones are designed for speed and which ones are designed for power. So I think that this is as good of a system as we're going to get in order to make it as flexible and applicable to as many different Gundam series as we can possibly make it. Now, let's talk about weapons and loadout. I'm going to come out and say right off the bat that a lot of these values are going to change the costs and the damage dealt. Most of them are either interpolated from D&D 5e values or directly borrowed, depending on, if it's a sword type or an axe type weapon. I might have just copied the damage dice straight out of the player's handbook, but once we start sort of playtesting and getting the balance right on some of these things, the generator consumption and the properties of these weapons are definitely going to change. So here I have a table listing out some examples of some pretty common melee and ranged weapons that you can equip your mobile suit with. Everything from beam daggers like the Gundam Pixie to the beam saber, which is pretty standard, the heat rod that is equipped on the Goof or Goof Custom. You have iron nails, which would be equipped on the Ekai or the Zegok. So we have a lot of variety of types of weaponry, and each one has their own qualities, their own properties. And I think that the damage dice have done them justice so far. Like I said, we'll test out how much damage we think these things should do. With the ranged weaponry, I had a little bit more difficulty differentiating between damage types, and of course, there's different types of weapons, such as your ballistic weapons, your machine guns, your explosives, and then you have your beam weaponry, which those often need to be recharged unless they have the ECAP technology that the Gundam Mark II uses. So here I've listed out as many types of ranged weapons as I can in order to accommodate any other ones that I might have missed. Um, Everything from the 90 millimeter machine gun, which is a magazine based machine rifle, versus the beam rifle, which is a recharge based single shot rifle. One of the biggest points of dispute that we've been having is effective ranges, which, depending on the source material that you're using, whether it's something like these from the video games or something like this, which is an amazing resource, your effective ranges for mobile suit weapons are anything from 100 meters to 5,500 meters, depending on the source material. So I thought it best that if we are going to equate 5 feet in D&D 5e world to 10 meters in the Mobile Suit Gundam world, that means that every square on a grid map, which would represent 5 feet in D&D, is going to represent 10 meters, which is a nice clean decimal number. And it makes a lot of sense because most of the mobile suits are between 17 and 18 meters tall. So it stands to reason that their effective melee reach would be 10 meters. So going by that and interpolating the values from, say, the player's handbook for crossbows, longbows, short crossbows, things like that, we've kind of narrowed down the ranges of these weapons to be realistic enough that you can have fun with it, even though the true effective range of a lot of these weapons is way, way higher. Um, but it wouldn't seem fair to the melee fighters in the game if you could just pick them off from 40 squares away. Now here I've listed out some of the weapon properties. They're very similar to what you would find in D&D 5e, with the exception of things like the clawed hands. If you have the iron nails equipped on your mobile suit, you can't equip a standard beam rifle or anything like that, but that's okay because we have special upgrades and special ranged weapons that you can use specifically for mobile suits that have clawed hands, like the GOG or the Zegok. Additionally, I've added the sniper specification. This is to indicate that weapons like the beam sniper rifle are much more difficult to use at close range, so within 75 meters, and so you just have disadvantage to attack rolls with that. Now here I've listed out the damage types that I have for these different weapons. This isn't an extensive list, but this should cover most of the different types of weapons that you'd be using. It's actually less than you would find in D&D 5e because we don't have things like acid damage or necrotic damage. Pretty basic. We've got ballistic, we've got slashing, we've got energy damage from beam weapons, we've got explosive damage from rockets and grenades. Um, yeah, pretty straightforward. Now you might be asking, what about magic weapons? Because that's a big thing in D&D 5e when you get your hands on a magic weapon and you can actually fight undead and that sort of thing. Well, while I don't have specific magic weapons, I've decided to include a mechanic for enhanced weapons, which at the cost of a higher generator consumption, you get your +1 beam saber or your +2 beam machine gun. They deal a little bit of extra damage, maybe different damage types. I think that you can have a lot of fun with this as a GM or a player and come up with your own sort of custom weaponry. Now, finally, we can talk about upgrades. This is where if you are a gunpla builder and you wanted to play using the gunpla that you've made, you're going to have a lot of fun with this area. Because for modest generator consumption costs, you can equip your mobile suit with sub weapons, eye fields, sub arms. You can equip it so that it transforms, things like that. I've covered almost everything I can think of with regard to, whether it has a core block or a core fighter that allows you to eject and succeed on your eject save without having to roll. So that's an added bonus that you can equip to your mobile suit. We've got shields in here as well. We have the full armor upgrade in here. So if you go from a Gundam to the full armor Gundam, you'll have resistance to ballistic attacks. Then we have my personal favorite, the claw mounted rocket. This one's for all the 0080 fans out there. The rockets on the hand of the High Gog, that's what this is. Now, again, the various upgrades are going to have different properties, whether or not they can be used as a bonus action, or whether or not they grant movement bonuses, whether it's a passive ability, or if it's something that you have to actively say that you're going to use. And for just a sec, I want to draw your attention to the Subflight System, the SFS. This is sort of the mount system for the Mobile Suit Gundam role-playing game. It works similar to the D&D 5e mount system. You kind of have to make a concentration check whenever you take damage while riding on the back of a base jabber or a dodai. And if you fail that check, then you're going to be knocked from the Subflight System. But this is all going to be in the Google document, so definitely click the link in the description to check out all the specifics on these. So that's it. Like I said, it's not an exhaustive list by any means, but hopefully it'll kind of get your noggin jogging as far as making your own mobile suits and equipping them with different weapons. As I said, the values, the damage types, that stuff is bound to change once we start playtesting and we start balancing out the different types of mobile suits. I have a lot of work ahead of me creating characters and different types of mobile suits. Basically, I want to create one of every kind of build that I can possibly make in order to determine that everything's nice and balanced. Again, there's a link to the Google Doc in the description below so that you can check it out on your own. Leave some comments below and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you next time.